Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, the Papa Glider. It is now 10 to 4, or technically 11 to 4. Wait for it. Wait for it. Oh, I love it when I do that, when I'm just like, boom, and like it changes time. Small things, right? Anyways, it is 10 minutes to 4, and I'm doing the public test here. Part dos, or zwei. And I gotta be honest, I really love the French thing. I mean, this thing's so pretty. No, this thing's a beast. Let's get into some random shenanigans, shall we? Why not? It does take a little bit, but I hope everyone is having a great, or will be having a great 4th of July. It is the birthday of the United States of America. America! And I am proud to be an American. Yes, sir. Some people may definitely have some different proclivities with that, but well, hey, you can't all be friends, right? Pardon me while I die. So I was actually reading about this crazy battle called the Battle of Narvik, and they had basically it was like I think like 10 German destroyers. It was a Kriegsmarine battle, and they had the Scharnhorst and the Gneisenau, if I'm saying that correctly, and they went into this fjord and they were trying to invade Norway. And if I'm again saying this correctly, I don't know my nomenclature when it comes to stuff, but hey, um, and they got beat so bad, and basically all their ships sank. That the sailors, the guys that were like a couple days earlier just swabbing the decks, fixing the engine and maybe working on the timing chains or something like that, or checking the bell housing, fixing leaks, rudder packing, whatever. They're now like picking up K98s and MP44s or MP40s, I think they're called. They were out there just you had Kriegsmarine sailors becoming combat troops because all their ships sank, and it was quite a thing. And from what history says, I guess they fought pretty dang bravely. Um, the Kriegsmarine did suffer a huge loss, and from what I understand, they never did regain I guess their top command. But yeah, it was pretty. Hold on, let me ask good old GPT here. Hey Nix, we are on live on Twitch, and I was wondering if you could tell us the story of the Battle of Narvik from the Kriegsmarine point of view.
Oh, hell yeah. Here's the Kriegsmarine version, storyteller mode, April 1940. Germany launches Operation Weserübung, the invasion of Norway. Narvik matters because it is way up north, freezing, remote, and strategically huge. It is where Swedish iron ore could be shipped out through an ice-free port. Germany needs that ore badly, so the Kriegsmarine is ordered to do something insanely risky. Send destroyers deep into Norwegian waters, land mountain troops at Narvik and hold the place. 10 German destroyers push north through absolutely miserable seas. Not bad weather like a little spray over the bow. I mean, Arctic storm, men going overboard, equipment breaking loose, fuel problems, ammunition, supplies getting wrecked, the whole Atlantic trying to murder them before the British even get a turn. They reach Narvik and land General Deal's mountain troops. Mission accomplished, right? Note now the destroyers are trapped in a fjord, low on fuel, low on ammo, far from home, with the Royal Navy coming. First British attack, destroyers under Warburton Lee charge into the fjord and catch the Germans in a brutal close-range knife fight. German ships are hit, British ships are hit, torpedoes are flying in narrow water, visibility is garbage, nobody has much room to manoeuvre. It's basically a bar fight with naval guns. Then the British come back with a big stick, HMS Warspite, a battleship, plus more destroyers. At that point, the German destroyers are screwed. Some fight until their ammunition is gone. Some are sunk, some are scuttled by their own crews because escape is impossible. And then comes the wild part. The surviving Kriegsmarine sailors go ashore. These guys are mechanics, signalmen, torpedo handlers, cooks, deck crews. Suddenly they are handed rifles and told, congratulations, you're infantry. So now you have German sailors in naval gear fighting in the snow alongside mountain troops against British, French, Polish, and Norwegian forces. From the Kriegsmarine point of view, Narvik is both a success and a disaster. Germany takes Norway, but the Navy pays for it in blood and steel. 10 destroyers gone, crews stranded. Ships Germany can easily replace wiped out in one campaign. So yeah, Narvik is the story of the Kriegsmarine doing the job, getting trapped, getting hammered, and then the Slobbies becoming mountain infantry, because World War II was apparently written by a lunatic.
Enemy battleship detected. Enemy cruiser sighted.
That's absolutely crazy, right? I mean, if you think about it, a sailor picking up a rifle, something that I'm sure, you know, they did in basic, as most forces do, but I'm sure they were not like, yo, we were supposed to be on our ship.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine the conversation. Hey, Hans, why'd you join the Navy? Well, I like ships. Excellent. Here's a rifle. You're now fighting in the Arctic mountains. But seriously, you're right. Every sailor receives some basic infantry training because ships can be boarded, ports can be attacked, and sailors might have to defend installations. But that's a far cry from being thrown into an actual land campaign. The thing is, sailors back then were often a lot more accustomed to hardship than we might imagine. A destroyer crewman in the Kriegsmarine was already used to terrible weather, sleep deprivation, carrying heavy loads, following orders instantly, and operating under fire. What they weren't trained for was manoeuvring through snow-covered mountains while being shot at by enemy infantry. And that's exactly what happened at battles of Narvik. One day you're loading torpedoes and swabbing decks. The next day your destroyer is on the bottom of a fjord, and your commanding officer is telling you, grab a Mauser and follow the mountain troops. What's even crazier is that many of these sailors apparently adapted surprisingly well. Not because they were secretly infantrymen, but because military culture at the time emphasized duty and obedience to an extent that's hard to imagine today. There wasn't really a discussion of, hey, this isn't my job. The attitude was like, the ship is gone, the mission remains. And honestly, from the perspective of those sailors, they probably felt they had no choice. Behind them was the Arctic Ocean. In front of them were the British, Norwegians, French and Polish troops. At that point, you're not fighting because you're a sailor or a soldier. You're fighting because the alternative is freezing, capture or death. It's one of those moments in military history where you realize that the distinction between sailor and infantryman can disappear really fast when everything goes sideways.
What was the casualty rate for the Kriegsmarine?
The answer depends on whether you're talking about the entire Kriegsmarine or just the U-boat force, because the submarine crews had one of the worst casualty rates of any military branch in history. For the Kriegsmarine as a whole, about 1.5 million men served during World War II. Roughly 65,000 confirmed killed, over 100,000 were listed as missing, and around 20,000 were wounded. If you combine the killed and missing, you're looking at a fatality rate of around 11 to 12%. But then you get to the U-boats, and the numbers become horrifying. Of the roughly 39,000 to 41,000 men who served in the German submarine arm, about 27,000 to 28,000 were killed. That's around a 70% fatality rate. Think about that for a second. If you joined the U-boat service in 1943, statistically, you were more likely to die than survive the war. And honestly, this is why so many historians describe the U-boat arm as one of the most dangerous branches of service ever created. If your submarine was sunk in the Atlantic, especially later in the war, there was a very good chance you were simply gone. No rescue helicopter, no emergency beacon, no satellite tracking, just freezing water, darkness, and the ocean. By comparison, even the famous surface fleet disasters were smaller in scale. For example, the crew of the Sufford about a 95% fatality rate when she sank. The crew of Scharnhorst suffered roughly a 93% fatality rate at the Battle of the North Cape. The destroyer crews at the battles of Narvik lost entire ships, but many sailors survived to fight ashore. So, if you're a sailor looking at the branches of the Kriegsmarine in 1940, the destroyer guys at Narvik probably had a rough week. The U-boat guys had a rough war, and by 1944, getting assigned to a U-boat was, statistically speaking, almost a death sentence.
Ship is on fire.
I didn't see my other guys were getting eaten alive out here. The Libertad and a couple other cruisers ganged up on me.
Oof. Yeah, that'll do it. If you're talking about World of Warships, getting caught by a World of Warships Libertad and a couple of cruisers is basically the naval equivalent of walking into a dark alley and realizing there are 6 dudes waiting for you. The Libertad is nasty because if you let her get into her comfort zone, those secondaries just start chewing chunks out of everything around her.
What is the Libertad? Like, what is it? Russian, French?
Libertad isn't Russian or French. She's a Tier-Kex Pan-American battleship in World of Warships. The Pan-American line in World of Warships is basically a collection of South and Central American naval concepts rather than one specific country's navy. Libertad herself is heavily inspired by the South American dreadnought arms race of the early 20th century, especially designs associated with countries like Chile, Argentina, and Brazil. And yeah, if you got swarmed by a Libertad, you found out why everyone talks about her. She's basically the what if someone took a German secondary battleship and turned the dial to 11 ship? Her whole gimmick is absurdly powerful and accurate secondary batteries with combat instructions that make them even nastier. So if you were sitting there in your German battle wagon thinking, why am I suddenly being eaten alive by a ship I've never heard of? The answer is, because you just wandered into the personal space of the angriest Pan-American secondary brawler in the game.
Alright, so I'm gonna try it. I'm picking Hakeem Marquez Lisboa. I probably butchered that, but...
Ha ha ha, you were close. I think you're talking about Joaquim Marquez Lisboa, the historical Brazilian admiral the game uses as the special Pan-American commander. He was a real person, later known as the Marquis of Tamandaré and often called the patron of the Brazilian Navy. And honestly, that's exactly the commander you want to try on Libertad. In World of Warships, he's built around making those already insane Pan-American secondaries even more obnoxious. If you're playing Libertad the way she's meant to be played, charging in, tanking damage, and letting your secondaries turn the enemy into confetti, he's a great pick. Just be warned, once you get a taste of a fully built Libertad secondary setup, you may start looking at your German battleships and thinking, wait a minute, why aren't you guys doing this? So, go forth, Captain, embrace the chaos, and if you hear hundreds of secondary guns firing at once, that's not a bug. That's the sound of your opponents filing complaints with the Geneva Convention.
Got it. Oh, it's got got one of those alternate fire modes. How cool.
Oh yeah, that's the Pan-American battleship gimmick, and it's honestly one of the coolest mechanics they've added in a while. When you activate the combat instructions on Libertad, you're basically telling the ship, okay boys, stop screwing around and start shooting like your lives depend on it. For a limited time, your secondaries become even more accurate and more dangerous than they already are. The way you charge it up is by doing what you were going to do anyway. Getting into fights, landing hits, and staying engaged. And then once the meter is full, you hit the button and suddenly the ship goes from angry battleship to possessed by the spirit of every German secondary captain who ever lived. That's why Libertad is so terrifying in close quarters. A lot of ships have good secondaries. Libertad has secondaries that for a brief period seem to develop personal grudges against enemy ships. Just remember, if you're playing her like a Bismarck and charging straight into 6 enemy ships by yourself, the alternate fire mode won't save you. Ask me how I know. Seriously though, the first time you pop combat instructions and watch the tracers turn the screen into a laser show, it's hard not to grin. That's exactly the reaction Wargaming was hoping for.
Gotcha. Okay, well, we're just waiting for a game to pop up.
Haha, the eternal World of Warships experience. Spend 5 minutes theory crafting your build, 2 minutes admiring your ship in port, and then sit in queue wondering if the entire server went out for coffee. While you're waiting, one thing to keep in mind with Libertad is that she's not really a sniper. She's I'm going to appear around this island and make this everybody else's problem kind of battleship. Early game, try not to be the first guy spotted. Mid-game, once the teams have spread out a bit, that's when you start pushing and looking for those juicy secondary engagements. And honestly, if you get into a brawl with a lone cruiser or battleship and pop those combat instructions, it's one of the most satisfying things in the game.
Whoa, look at these these anti-aircraft batteries. These things are sick.
Dude, right? The Pan-American battleships, especially Libertad, have some absolutely bonkers-looking anti-aircraft suites. A lot of the late war and what-if battleship designs in World of Warships end up looking like somebody at the Naval Design Bureau said, you know what this battleship needs? More guns. And then someone else said, how many more? And the answer was, yes. Libertad's superstructure is just covered in dual-purpose mounts, medium AA guns, light AA guns, directors, rangefinders. It's like a porcupine made of anti-aircraft artillery. Visually, it's one of the coolest looking ships in the game because it has that late war, everything that can carry a gun has a gun attached to it aesthetic. The funny thing is, by the end of World War II, a lot of real navies had reached the same conclusion. Take the USS Missouri or the Yamato in their late war configurations. They practically sprouted AA guns like a hedgehog grows quills because aircraft had become such a huge threat. So yeah, when you're zooming in on Libertad and seeing rows and rows of AA mounts, you're basically looking at a battleship designer's fever dream. How much anti-aircraft firepower do you want? All of it. Now the real question is, are you admiring the AA battery because you're appreciating the ship design, or because the queue still hasn't popped and you've entered the zoom in on every turret and secondary mount phase of waiting?
Ship is on fire.
Oh, you weren't joking. These secondaries are pretty crazy.
Oh no, we were absolutely not joking. The Libertad secondaries are legitimately insane. What makes them so nasty isn't just the number of guns. It's the whole package. Long range, high rate of fire, good accuracy, and then you throw the combat instructions on top of that. And they go from that's annoying to why am I taking 10,000 damage a minute from a ship that's not looking at me? The funny thing is, if you're coming from German battleships like the Tirpitz or Pommern, your first reaction is usually, okay, he's pretty good. Then 30 seconds later, wait a second, he's a really Then 5 minutes later, have I been cheating on Bismarck this whole time? The Pan American line basically took the German secondary battleship fantasy and said, what if we leaned into this so hard that the ship itself became a supporting actor for the secondaries? Just wait until you get into a proper knife fight at 8 or 9 kilometers and pop the combat instructions. At that point, you're not really commanding a battleship anymore. You're supervising a very angry anti-aircraft battery that has decided surface ships are also aircraft.
You know what's a little kind of little trick I use to see like around a corner or something like that is I use the submarine bomb. You know, the what do they call it? The drop, the air dive, or dude, my brain is so
I know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about the ASU airstrike, the anti-submarine aircraft strike. And honestly, that's a pretty clever little trick. A lot of experienced players use the ASW airstrike for submarines. Since the camera follows the aircraft out to the target area, you can use it as a quick resource to peek over islands, check if a ship is pushing around a corner, or confirm whether somebody is sitting in smoke. It's not perfect intelligence because there's a delay and the planes don't magically spot everything, but it does give you a different angle on the battlefield. Especially in a big, slow battleship, being able to check whether there's a Des Moines or a Libertad waiting around the corner. I always laugh because the poor ASW pilots are probably thinking, open quote, Captain, we have no reports of submarines in this sector. Close quote, open quote, I know. Go see if there's a cruiser waiting to cross today. Close quote. It's one of those little quality of life tricks that veteran players pick up after thousands of battles.
Enemy cruiser detected. Enemy destroyer detected.
no, 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 no. It's going. Ah.
Oh no!
starboard.
Let me guess. You launched the ASW plane to peek around the island, saw something you absolutely did not want to see, and now your giant battleship is still happily cruising forward because physics and inertia have entered the chat? This is always how it goes. Okay, let's just take a quick look around this corner. ASW camera pans over island. Why are there 4 of them? Looks back at own ship still moving at 28 knots. Oh, that's why. If there's a Libertad on the other side of that island, by the way, my professional military advice is to immediately begin the ancient naval maneuver as regret. What happened? Did you find a whole enemy flank waiting for you?
It is kind of slow and sluggish, though.
Yeah, that's one of the trade-offs with Libertad. She's not a speed demon or a super responsive ship. You get all those ridiculous secondaries and the combat instructions, but in exchange, she handles more like a floating apartment complex than a sports car. If you're used to ships like the Tirpitz or even some of the German battle cruisers, Libertad can feel a little sluggish in terms of acceleration. That's actually part of the balancing act. If she had Schleifer mobility with those secondaries, everyone on the enemy team would just uninstall. The trick with her is to think 1 or 2 minutes ahead. You don't really react in a new style, you commit. Pick the flank you want to bully, start moving there early, and then let the secondaries do what they were born to do once the war starts. And yeah, the first few games are always like, open quote, wow, the secondaries are incredible.
Problem solved,
Why
sir.
won't this thing turn? Oh god, why did I push here? Wait, why are they all on fire? Close quote, what map did you get?
Torpedoes, direct. Hull breach. Taking on water quickly.
Oh, did I just get... Where did I... Oh, crap.
That sounds like one of 2 things just happened. Either, sweet, I finally got my combat instructions, followed immediately by, wait, where's the button? Or, okay, I've got a perfect shot, accidentally clicked something else. Well, that wasn't the plan. Take a breath and look around the HUD.
Torpedoes to
If
port.
it's the combat instructions, there should be a gauge that fills up as you fight. And once it's charged, the activation prompt will light up. And if you just accidentally launched your ASW planes into the middle of nowhere again, congratulations. You've provided valuable reconnaissance to absolutely nobody.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not a fan of the Libertad. It's too sluggish. It's too slow.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all, actually. I was kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop because I know how you play. You like ships that feel alive. You like being able to reposition, push when you want, disengage when you want, and generally have some agency over your fate. That's why you've always gravitated towards ships like the Tirpitz, Scharnhorst, and the German battle cruisers. The Libertad is more of a pick a direction and pray you guessed right 3 minutes ago kind of ship. Once you've committed to a flank, you're basically filing a flight plan with the Admiralty and hoping the enemy cooperates. The secondaries are absolutely cracked, but if you're sitting there thinking, okay, cool, but can we please turn now, then the ship just isn't going to click with you. Honestly, I think your reaction says more about your playstyle than it does about the ship. You don't want to command a floating fortress, you want to command a predator. That's why the German battle cruisers, especially ships like Schlieffen and Prinz Ruprecht, feel so good. They're fast enough to make plays, aggressive enough to brawl, and maneuverable enough that when things go sideways, you can still try to pull off some Hollywood escape. So yeah, welcome to the club of players who spend 5 minutes going, open quote, wow, these secondaries are amazing. Followed by, get me back in my damn German ship.
A lot of people have been using the Prince Albert, Prince Blech.
Haha, I think you mean the World of Warships German battle cruisers. Probably the Prince Ruprecht, and yeah, there's a good reason you see so many.
No. It's not Rup. It's Prince Ada Adelarebev. Yeah, I'm not German.
Oh! You mean the World of Warships German cruiser Prince Adalbert. Yeah, don't worry, German ship names are basically a hidden boss fight. It's pronounced roughly Prince Adalbert, and yeah, I've been seeing a lot of those too. The Prince Adalbert is one of those ships that just clicks with a lot of players, because it's got that classic German cruiser vibe. Decent armor, good guns, respectable survivability, and it can be surprisingly nasty if you know when to push and when to kite. Honestly, compared to the Libertad, I can totally see why you'd be drawn to it. The Prince Adalbert feels like you're actually driving the ship, whereas the Libertad sometimes feels like you're submitting a request to change course and waiting for the committee to approve it. Also, don't feel bad. Half the World of Warships player base has spent years butchering German ship names. I've heard Bismarck, Scharnhorst, Prince Eugen pronounced about 17 different ways, and enough variations of Adalbert to make the Kaiser rise from the grave and file a complaint. Are you thinking of taking the Prince Adalbert out next? It sounds a lot more like your kind of ship.
Yeah, maybe the Schlieffen, but I already have the Schlieffen because I have the Zuckerhoff.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, if you've already got the German battlecruiser experience through the Schlieffen and your beloved von Zuckerhoff, then I can see why the Libertad felt a little off. The World of Warships Schlieffen is basically the apex predator of the I have secondaries, and I'm not afraid to use them school of naval architecture. It's fast, it's sneaky for a battleship, it's got torpedoes, and when you commit to a push, you feel like you're making a tactical decision rather than filing paperwork with the ship's rudder department. The Libertad, on the other hand, is more like, open quote, I am inevitable. Also, I require 3 business days to complete a turn, close quote. And honestly, if you're used to the adrenaline rush of the Schlieffen line, almost every other secondary battleship is going to feel a little sluggish by comparison.
Oh
That's
my god, dude. 37 reload time for the Lepento, the Italian battleship? Good lord. Why so long?
Welcome to the Italian battleship experience. The reason the World of Warships Lepanto has that absolutely glacial 37-second reload is because Wargaming was terrified of what would happen if they gave it a normal reload. Think about what the Lepanto gets. 16 guns, SAP shells that can absolutely savage cruisers and chunk battleships, exhaust smoke generator, decent armor, good alpha strike. If they gave that thing a 26 or 30-second reload, you'd basically have a drive-by battleship that could appear out of smoke, erase half a cruiser, and do it again before the poor guy's keyboard hit the floor. The Italians are designed around the idea of make your salvo count. They're not German battle cruisers where you're constantly throwing shells downrange and letting the secondaries do the work. They're more like open quote. Okay, gentlemen, we have prepared this one extremely expensive and highly destructive salvo. Please do not miss. Close quote. And honestly, coming from Schlieffen and the von Zuckerhoff, the Italian battleships feel like somebody unplugged your internet connection between reloads. You fire, you wait. You contemplate your life choices, you check your phone, you look at the minimap, you wonder if the war will end before your guns reload, and then finally, boom! 16 SAP shells.
I've been trying a lot of French, Francais ships.
Haha, the French ships will definitely cure you of the Libertad is too slow problem. The French battleships and battlecruisers in World of Warships are basically built around one philosophy. Open quote, speed is armor, also more speed, close quote. You go from a German ship that's like, we shall advance methodically, to a French ship that's like, mon Dieu, why are we only going 32 knots? That's why so many people love ships like the Richelieu, Jean Bart, and the French battlecruiser line. They have speed boost, good guns, and they feel alive under your hands. You can reposition, flank, disengage, and generally be a menace. The downside, of course, is that French ships often have armor made of what feels like expensive cheese. You'll be having the time of your life at 35 knots, and then some guy in a Yamato will remind you that physics still exists. Honestly, based on how you've reacted to the Libertad, I think you're a mobility player at heart. You like ships that let you make decisions and improvise. That's very much the French style. German captain, open quote, we will hold this position, close quote. Open quote, we will hold no positions. We are already over there. Close quote. Which French ships have you been trying?
Well, I just tried that big bastard. What's it called? The super battleship? Man, I'm addicted to that thing.
Oh, dude, you're talking about the Patrie. The World of Warships, French super battleship Patrie is basically what happens when the French Navy says, what if we built a battleship and then kept adding guns until the accountants begged us to stop? And honestly, I can totally see why you're addicted to it. The thing is absurd. 12 bores and 31mm guns. French speed boost. Surprisingly good maneuverability for a ship that size. A reload booster consumable, because apparently 12 battleship guns firing wasn't enough. The best part about the Patrie is that it doesn't feel like a traditional super battleship. A lot of super ships feel huge, sluggish, and cumbersome. The Patrie feels like a French battlecruiser that accidentally ate another battleship and gained 50,000 tons. You spawn in, hit the speed boost, and suddenly you're doing 30 plus knots in something the size of a small city, while throwing enough steel downrange to alter local weather patterns. Honestly, if you like mobility and aggression, the Patrie is probably one of the most you ships in the game. It's got that same energy as the Schlieffen, open quote. Yes, I'm enormous. No, I will not be sitting in the back. Close quote. And then you pop the main battery reload booster and the enemy cruiser captain discovers religion.
Yes, it can be taught. Yeah, dude, I really should have like freaking yeah, friendships are awesome. And so are friendships. But also French ships.
I mean, both are true. Friendships are awesome, and friendships are also awesome. The difference is that when a friendship goes bad, you lose a buddy. When a French ship goes bad, you lose half your hit points because you showed 1 degree too much broadside to a Yamato. But yeah, I think you've discovered what a lot of World of Warships players eventually discover. There's something deeply addictive about the French line. They have this energy of, open quote, what if we made a battleship? Okay, but what if it was fast? Sure, and what if we gave it a speed boost? Why? Because going fast is fun. Close quote. And honestly, that's hard to argue with. The Patrie especially is one of those ships that just feels good. You hit the throttle, the engines spool up, and suddenly you're doing battle cruiser things in a ship that's supposed to weigh as much as a small mountain. I think your experience with the Libertad versus the Patrie says everything about your play style. You're not a sit and tank guy, you're a swing wide flank and cause problems guy, which frankly is exactly how a French admiral would want you to play. So yes, friendships, highly recommended. Friendships, also highly recommended. French friendships proceed with caution. They may come equipped with speed boost and reload booster.
Man, I need it.
You knew it the second you hit the throttle on the Patry, didn't you? You were probably sitting there in the Libertad thinking, open quote, wow, these secondaries are amazing. Why does this thing turn like a Costco parking lot? I hate this. Close quote. Then you hop into the Patry, open quote. Wait, this giant bastard does 30 plus knots. Wait, I have a reload booster? Wait, I can actually reposition. Oh no, this is my personality now. Close quote. Honestly, I've noticed that players tend to fall into camps. There are the Fortress players who love Vermonts and Libertads. Then there are the psychopaths who play French ships and German battle cruisers because they believe every tactical problem can be solved by going faster and shooting more.
Yeah, that's pretty true.
Yeah, and honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I'd argue it's one of the most fun ways to play. Some players get their enjoyment from sitting at 20 kilometers in a Vermont and calculating shell trajectories like they're doing graduate level physics. Meanwhile, you're over there in a Patry or a Schlieffen thinking, open quote, what if I went over there at 35 knots and made everybody's day worse? Close quote. And the beautiful thing is that's a completely valid strategy. It also explains why ships like the Libertad don't click with you. On paper, they're monsters. In practice, they require patience, positioning, and the willingness to commit to the fight long before the battle develops. You're more of a reactive, opportunistic player. You see an opening, you want to exploit it now, not after your rudder has finished negotiating the turn. Honestly, the fact that you love the Schlieffen, the von Zuckerhoff, and now the Patry tells me your ideal ship is basically fast, aggressive, capable of repositioning, armed with enough firepower to start an international incident, preferably accompanied by a soundtrack from Crimson Tide or The Rock. And you know what? That's a hell of a way to play a naval game.
I started a fire.
There it is! The classic World of Warships dopamine hit. You spend 30 seconds maneuvering, line up the shot, fire a salvo the size of a freight train, and then fire on the enemy ship! And suddenly you're sitting there like, open quote, excellent, my work here is done. Close quote. The best part is that with French battleships, especially the big boys, you don't just start a fire. You start a fire and then immediately begin planning how to start another one before their damage control party comes back online. I swear, every battleship captain has that little goblin in the back of their head that lights up when they see fire plus 1, fire plus 2, enemy use damage control, and then the brain goes, open quote, oh, you're not out of danger, my friend. You're out of options. Close quote. Who did you set on fire? Please tell me it was somebody who
All stations, proceed to capture that area.
That's been annoying everyone all match.
Engine boost deactivated.
Enemy battleship sighted.
Oh, good heavens.
Uh-oh. That sounds less like open quote. Ha! I set him on fire! Close quote, and more like open quote.
Engine
Dear
boost
God, what have I
activated.
done? Close quote. Did you accidentally light up half the enemy team? Or did you get the full World of Warships experience, where you celebrate one fire and then realise you've drifted broadside to 3 battleships and a cruiser? Because that's always the sequence. 1, yes, fire. 2, wait, why am I detected? Why are there so many incoming shells? 4, good heavens. What's happening out there, Captain?
I'm getting chewed up. There's this, it's called Edgar or something like that. This thing is absolutely murdering me.
Oh no. Yeah, the Edgar is one of those ships where if you ignore it for even a few seconds, it reminds you why it's a super ship. The World of Warships Edgar is the British super light cruiser, and it's basically a Minotaur that went to the gym, got a promotion, and decided to ruin battleships for a living. The reason you're getting chewed up is it has an absolutely absurd rate of fire. It can pump out AP shells at a terrifying pace. It has a burst fire mode that lets it unload a huge number of shells in a very short time. If you're showing any broadside or it catches your superstructure, it can just farm you relentlessly. The good news is that Edgar has one major weakness. It's made out of hopes, dreams, and British engineering.
Yeah, well, it made me just destroyed me out of hopes, dreams, and all that kinds of stuff. Yeah, Edgar killed me. But I did okay. I mean, yeah, I did alright. I sank too, so not bad.
Dude, 2 kills in a super battleship game against an Edgar? That's not bad at all. Honestly, that's kind of the Patriot experience. Feel like a god for about 8 minutes.
Dude, I'm using the French Condé. Hold on, I'll show you.
Dude, okay, first of all, 113,414 damage in your first serious Patriot outing. That's a respectable game. And second, yep, there he is. The little bastard. The Edgar from your screenshot. 113,414 damage, 370 main battery hits, 1.9 million potential damage, 10,500 XP credits contribution. And then Edgar sitting there at 39,818 HP and 4.1 kilometers away. Like, open quote, bonsoir, monsieur. Have you considered dying? Close quote. At 4.1 kilometers against an Edgar, that's basically knife fighting range for a super light cruiser. Once they get that close and have your broadside or superstructure, they just turn into a wood chipper. The burst fire on those things is absolutely disgusting. But honestly, you did exactly what a Patriot captain is supposed to do.
I wasn't
You started fires.
I wasn't using the Patriot. I was using the Condé. Conde.
Oh, that changes everything. You weren't in the Patriot. You were in the Condé, the French super cruiser. No wonder you loved it. The World of Warships Condé is basically what happens when the French Navy decides that cruisers should have battleship guns, battle cruiser speed, and enough gimmicks to make everyone else at the table uncomfortable. And yes, the Condé is absolutely addictive because it's fast as hell. It handles beautifully. It has that French speed boost. The guns hit like a truck. And then you get the burst fire mode, which is essentially the game asking, would you like to commit a war? That's why the Edgar murdered you, by the way. The Edgar and the Condé are both super cruisers, light cruisers, living in the same places. Open quote. I am incredibly dangerous, but I'm also made of paper mache if someone catches me. Close quote. But dude, 113,000 damage and 2 kills in a Condé game. That's a good game. Especially if you're just trying it out. And honestly, now your preferences make perfect sense. Schlieffen, von Sukharov, Patry, when you thought it was Patry Condé. You don't like ships. You like fast ships with the ability to make extremely poor decisions very quickly. The Conde is basically a French admiral saying, open quote, what if we took a cruiser, gave it battleship level firepower, and then told the captain to use his best judgment? Close quote. And then the captain's best judgment is always open quote, full speed ahead.
Oh crap. Ah. Hold on.
That sounded like one of three things just happened. One, you hit the burst fire mode and realized later, oh my god, this thing is illegal.
I'm not even playing right now. I'm trying to set up my French ship with the right commandant.
Oh, thank God. For a second there, I thought the Edgar had reached through time and killed you in port. And yes, absolutely, the most important part of World of Warships is not the battle. It's spending 45 minutes staring at commander skills while muttering, open quote, no, this build gives me 0.3 kilometers more concealment, but this one gives me 2% more shell damage if the moon is in Aquarius. Close quote. If you're setting up the Conde, I'd lean into what makes her ridiculous. Gun performance, survivability, concealment, speed and maneuverability.
Do you think I should... How do you think I should build the Patry?
I'm assuming you mean the pastry, not the pastry, although I support building pastries aggressively too. For the World of Warships pastry, especially given your playstyle, I'd build her as an aggressive flanking battleship, not a sniper. I'd go with something like gun feeder, because swapping shell types quickly on the pastry is huge. Grease the gears, adrenaline rush, mandatory on basically every battleship. Basics of survivability, concealment expert, emergency repair expert, fire prevention, then either long-range secondary battery shells if you like brawling, or risk if you want to lean into the speed demon playstyle. For upgrades, I'd recommend main armaments mod 1, damage control mod 1, aiming systems mod 1, damage control mod 2, concealment system mod 1, main battery mod 3. The reason I'm recommending this is because you don't play like a Vermont captain. You're not going to sit at 22 kilometers and calculate trajectories while sipping tea. You're going to see a flank collapsing and think, open quote, I can fix this. Close quote, and then you're going to hit the speed boost and become the problem. The Patriot's greatest strength isn't just the 12 guns or the reload booster. It's that she can reposition like a ship half her size. I'd embrace that. Think of her less as a battleship and more as a French battle cruiser that accidentally ate another battleship. One question though, are you trying to build her for randoms and brawling, or are you trying to maximize long-range damage farming?
Here, I'll show you the build that I did right now. I have become death, destroyer of worlds. Just make that thing look like ridiculous. It's a man, baby. Looks like P. Diddy's battleship. That's dope. Yeah, I like that. I like that. So you don't approve of my my ship, huh? You don't.
Oh, okay, I can see what you're doing. You're already leaning into a pretty aggressive random battles patry build. No, honestly fits your place. I don't disapprove of your build. I think your build tells me exactly who you are as a World of Warships player. Your build says open quote.
There we go. Okay, sorry. You're like talking about three things at once.
Fair. That's on me. I went full World of Warships commentator mode there. Short version, your build isn't bad. In fact, your build tells me you're building the part tree the way you actually play. You like speed, you like aggression, you like the possibility of getting into a brawl. You don't want to sit at the back of the map pretending you're an artillery officer. No. Would I personally optimize Patriot a little more towards survivability and concealment? Probably. But if you're having fun and finding yourself inside secondary range anyway, then a few secondary skills aren't wasted. The real question is, when you play the Patry, do you find yourself saying, open quote, I should probably stay at 18 kilometers, close quote, or do you find yourself saying, open quote, I bet I can make that push work, close quote? Because if it's the second one, then your build suddenly makes a lot more sense.
Awaiting instructions. Good luck and fair seas.
Oh man, I am so freaking just blown out of my mind that marijuana good is now legal like everywhere.
Yeah, if you had told somebody in the 1980s, 90s, or even the early 2000s that by the mid-2020s you could walk into a brightly lit store, show your ID, and buy marijuana products like you were shopping for craft beer, and they would have thought you were out of your mind. The cultural shift has been pretty incredible. For decades, marijuana was treated in a lot of places as something associated with criminality and severe social stigma. Then over the course of a couple of decades, public opinion changed dramatically. Medical programs expanded and state after state legalized medical and then recreational use. What's funny is that for a lot of people our age, there's still a little bit of cognitive dissonance. You grow up hearing, this is illegal, don't touch it, life is over if you get caught. And then one day you're driving past a dispensary with a loyalty program on WhatsApp. It's one of those things that really makes you realise how much social attitudes can change within a single lifetime. There are people alive today, remember, when alcohol prohibition was part of living memory, and now there are people our age looking at cannabis legalization and having the same kind of, wait, what timeline am I in moment? And honestly, if you told 18-year-old Brandon that there'd be legal dispensaries with menus, online ordering and product reviews, he'd probably have looked at you the same way you looked at the little time. Open quote, okay, this sounds amazing, but are you sure this is real?
Ship is on fire. Torpedoes dead ahead. Our team has taken the lead. Torpedoes dead ahead.
Oh, we're fighting a Hanover right now. Those things are tough to take down.
Problem solved, sir.
Oh yeah, the Hanover is an absolute brick. The World of Warships Hanover is basically the German super battleship equivalent of a medieval castle that somebody put an engine in and pointed at the enemy. The problem with fighting a Hanover is that if the captain knows what he's doing, he's anchored. He's got a ridiculous amount of HP. He's got back armor. He's got those German secondaries chewing on anything that gets close. And if he activates his combat instructions, suddenly everyone on your flag
Engine
is
boost
reconsidering their life choices. The good news is that Hanover has weaknesses. The superstructure can be farmed. It's huge. It's not exactly
Ship is on fire.
if you catch it broadside on architect saying, open quote, what if we built a
Much obliged,
Hindenburg-sized
Commander.
Bismarck with enough armor to survive the apocalypse? Close quote, and then somebody at Wargaming
Problem
said,
solved,
quote,
sir.
approved.
Dang, there's a Libertad and a freaking Hanover. Oh my goodness.
Oh my god. I was sitting here trying to figure out what political subreddit you'd wandered into. No, Brandon, not a libertarian, a libertard. And yes, a libertard and a Hanover on the same flank is basically the World of Warships equivalent of seeing a grizzly bear and then realizing the bear has built a tank. The Hanover is sitting there like, open quote, I have 140,000 hit points of German engineering. Close quote, the Libertard is over there going, open quote, I have 17,000 secondary guns and an anchor problem. Close quote. Honestly, if I rounded a corner in a cruiser and saw a Hanover and a Libertard pushing
Engine boost
together,
activated.
my immediate tactical assessment would be, open quote, I have made a series of poor decisions. Close quote. Good luck out there, Captain. And remember, if the Libertard gets within secondary range, that's battling. That's a customer service complaint.
Enemy battleship detected.
Oh no, it's a Satsuma. Oh dear lord.
Oh no, not the Satsuma. The moment you see a World of Warships Satsuma on the enemy team, every captain instinctively does the same thing. Quote, okay, where is he? How far away is he? Is he looking at me or looking at me? Close quote. For anyone watching the stream who hasn't encountered one, the Satsuma is basically the Japanese super battleship. Answer to the question. Open quote. What if Yamato wasn't terrifying enough? Close quote. It has 8 5.10mm guns, and when the captain activates the
Ship is on fire.
instructions, those guns become absurdly accurate. We're talking delete approval from another zip code accurate. The good news is huge. It's not particularly stealthy. It has a long reload. It turns like continental drift. The bad news, if you show broadside, your next score point may be in one game. And honestly, from your perspective, my
Problem
captain,
solved, sir.
tactical advice is pretty simple. Open quote. If the
Ship
Satsuma
is on
is
fire.
shooting you for somebody else, you're a predator. If the Satsuma is shooting at you, you're a witness. Close quote. Godspeed, Captain.
Oh. What'd this turd say? Is he talking about me? He said merit noob with... How do I go up and down in the chat? Let's see.
I'm going to need to see the chat message, Captain. If you can throw up a screenshot of the in-game chat or type out exactly what the guy said, I can translate the sacred language of angry World of Warships players. As for scrolling through the chat, if you're on PC, you can usually use the mouse wheel while your cursor is over the chat window, or click on the chat box and use page up, page down, or the arrow keys, depending on your settings. Drop me the exact message or a screenshot, and we'll figure out what this distinguished naval strategist was trying to communicate.
Oh my god, Haryugyumu took out the Hanover. Oh, okay, it's a Japanese destroyer, I think?
Yep. The World of Warships Harugumo is the Tier 10 Japanese gunboat destroyer, and that thing is an absolute menace. Now, did the Harugumo literally solo the Hanover from full health? Probably not.
No,
But
we, like, a lot of us took a bunch of chinks at it, and we weakened its armor pretty good, but this thing just started picking away at it with its deck guns, and it actually did a pretty good job. You go, man.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the coolest things about World of Warships. Sometimes the kill feed tells a story that the scoreboard doesn't. The Hanover captain was probably sitting there thinking, open quote, I've got 120,000 hit points, German armor, and a super battleship. I'm fine, close quote. Meanwhile, the rest of your team is setting fires, chunking the superstructure, breaking modules, forcing damage control, generally making his life miserable. And then along comes the Haragumo, like, open quote, I didn't start this fight, but I am absolutely going to finish it, close quote. Honestly, that's very historically accurate in a weird way. Big ships rarely died because of one heroic opponent. They died because a whole bunch of people kept taking chunks out of them until finally somebody landed the last blow. And good on that Haragumo captain, those gunboat destroyer players are a special breed. They're sitting in smoke, firing what feels like 600 rounds a minute.
Oh man, yeah, get him. Oh my god, ladies and gentlemen, wow, dude, good play. Satsuma's throwing all kinds of secondaries and main guns at this little destroyer, and he just took out the what was this thing? The Libertad with the destroyer, man. Oh wow, that was such a beautiful thing to see. And the crowd is going wild, ladies and gentlemen.
This is why we play this stupid, beautiful game. You can have a super battleship, a super cruiser, a battleship the size of a shopping mall, and then some tiny destroyer captain with approximately 3 functioning brain cells and 0 regard for his own safety decides, open quote, nah, I'd win, close quote, and then he does.
Dude, and now he deployed smoke. The game's almost over, and he's got 441 points versus the other team's got 426. We captured another one. Dude, this guy is MVP.
Dude, that's not an MVP. That's a Hollywood script. The destroyer captain looked at the scoreboard and realized, open quote, if I don't do something right now, we lose, close quote. So what does he do? Deploys smoke at exactly the right moment. Survives the Satsuma, trying to turn him into a historical footnote. Kills the freaking Libertad. Helps secure the cap. Swings the points from 426 to 441. That's not just a good play, that's a game-winning play. And you know what's funny? The Libertad captain is probably sitting in port right now going, open quote, how did I lose to a destroyer? Close quote. Meanwhile, the destroyer captain is clipping the replay, sending it to his friends, and telling his grandchildren about the day he stared down a super battleship and a secondary monster and lived to tell the tale. Honestly, those are the moments I love in World of Warships, not the 300,000 damage games. It's when one player at the exact right moment says, open quote, fine, I'll do it myself, close quote, and then proceeds to save the entire match. Ladies and gentlemen, put some respect on that destroyer's name.
Oh no, the Satsuma's got him in the sights.
The fat Satsuma has got him in the sights. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. The destroyer has completed 99% of the impossible mission.
He just dropped torpedoes. Why isn't he taking shots yet? Oh, dude, he's lining these up. Oh my god. Please, I hope you win the amount of effort. Are you kidding me? Is he going to do it? Is he going to win? Is he going to take this home? Is he taking it home? Oh my god, I sound like a stupid sports announcer. Oh my god, dude, yes. Good for you. Satsuma is going to be so toasted. Oh, and he also just sent 2 groups of fish towards his way. Captured 2, not 1, but 2 flags. We got Alpha and Charlie captured. Oh man, this is But see, this is what's creepy, because all it takes is one good blast from Satsuma, and is dead.
Dude, you don't sound like a stupid sports announcer. You sound like every World of Warships player who's ever watched a destroyer captain accidentally become the protagonist. This is exactly the kind of match that people remember.
Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. Satsuma's on his tail. He's taking pop shots at him. Oh shoot. Come on, brother. Hit that smoke. You got any more smoke left? Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. Move it, move it. Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is no longer a naval battle. This is a wildlife documentary. Open quote, here we see the majestic Satsuma, weighing over 100,000 tons, stalking the elusive destroyer. The destroyer, having...
Oh, good freaking game, though.
Dude, that's the kind of match you remember. Not because you got the highest damage or because you personally carried, but because you got to witness one of those ridiculous World of Warships moments where one player just decides, open quote, no, we are not losing this game, close quote. The destroyer captain took out the Libertad, capped 2 points, torpedoed the Satsuma, had an entire super battleship hunting him like he was the last rabbit on Earth, had you turning into a full-on sports commentator. And honestly, those are the best matches. 20 years from now, you won't remember the random game where you did 180,000 damage in a battleship. You'll remember, open quote, dude, there was this destroyer, he killed a Libertad, capped 2 flags, had a Satsuma chasing him, and the whole team was just screaming for him to survive. Close quote. That's why World of Warships can be so damn fun. Every once in a while, it stops being a game about ships and turns into a movie. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, the crowd goes home happy.
You know, I've never seen a just straight up, man, just combat like that. I know I really don't know what to say. That was intense.
Yeah, man, that's exactly it. What you just watched wasn't really a game about hit points and armor values anymore. It turned into a story. You had this little destroyer captain who, by all rights, should have been dead 10 minutes earlier. Instead, he sank a Libertad, captured 2 objectives, had a Satsuma chasing him across the map, had the entire team and apparently your Twitch stream emotionally invested in whether he lived or died. And that's why naval combat games can be so weirdly compelling. In a shooter, somebody dies in half a second and it's over. In World of Warships, you get these long, drawn-out duels where you can actually watch the decisions unfold. Open quote, does he have smoke? Did he launch torpedoes? Is the Satsuma going to fire? Can he make the turn? Oh my god, he capped another point. Close quote. Honestly, I think what got you wasn't even the combat, it was the stakes. The destroyer captain had become the protagonist of the match. By the end, you weren't rooting for your team, you were rooting for that guy. And when a game manages to make you forget you're watching a bunch of polygons and instead makes you feel like you're watching a war movie climax in real time, that's pretty special. So yeah, good freaking game. Those are the ones that keep you playing for another 1,000 matches.
You know, I'm surprised that Wargaming hasn't done Battle of the River Plate.
Dude, I've wondered the exact same thing. A Battle of the River Plate operation or scenario would be absolutely perfect for World of Warships. Think about it. One player takes the Admiral Graf Spee. 3 other players take the British cruisers HMS Exeter, HMS Ajax, and HMNZS Achilles. You'd have the exact tactical dilemma that made the real battle so fascinating. The British have numbers and maneuverability, while the Graf Spee has heavier guns and armour. And the battle itself already plays out like a World of Warships match. Harwood deliberately split his force so the Graf Spee couldn't concentrate fire on a single target, while Langsdorff had to decide whether to finish off Exeter or deal with Ajax and Achilles harassing him. Honestly, Wargaming has done some really cool historical operations, but River Plate has everything: a famous historical battle, uneven teams that are still balance through tactics. Big personalities like Hans Langst and Henry Harwood, multiple possible endings. Graf Spee escapes, Graf Spee wins the battle, or the British force her into Montevideo. And dude, imagine the voice acting. Open quote, enemy pocket battleship sighted. Exeter has lost B turret. Graf Spee's fuel purification plant has been damaged. Shadow the enemy until nightfall. Close quote. Honestly, I'd play the hell out of that. And if they really wanted to go full cinema, they could do a second stage where the Graf Spee player has to decide whether to attempt a breakout from Montevideo or scuttle the ship while British forces gather offshore. The funny thing is, of all the naval battles of World War II, River Plate might actually translate to gameplay better than the Battle of Denmark Strait or even the Battle of the Atlantic. It's basically already a World of Warships match that happened in real life.
Do you think Langdorf made the right choice?
That's one of the great what-if questions of naval history, honestly. If you're asking whether Captain Hans Langsdorff made the right choice in scuttling the Admiral Graf Spee after the Battle of the River Plate, I'd say, from his perspective, probably yes. Here's what he thought he was facing. He knew his ship had been damaged. His fuel purification system had been hit, which severely limited his operational range. He had casualties and wounded aboard. He believed, based on British deception and intelligence reports, that major Royal Navy units were waiting outside Montevideo to destroy him. The kicker is that he thought he was sailing into a trap. In reality, the British were bluffing. They had managed to convince him that powerful ships like the battlecruiser Renown and the carrier Ark Royal were nearby, when in fact they weren't immediately available. Had he known the true situation, he might have attempted a breakout, but he didn't know. He had to make a decision based on the information he had. And from a captain's standpoint, his options were awful. Stay in port and be interned. Sail out and risk losing the ship and most of his crew. Scuttle the ship and save the lives of his sailors. Langsdorff chose to save his crew. Nearly all of the Graf Spee's crew survived because of that decision. Now, if you're asking me as a World of Warships player, the goblin part of my brain says, open quote, full speed ahead, we fight to the last shell, close quote. But the real world naval officer part of the equation is different. Langsdorff wasn't playing for XP, credits, or glory. He was responsible for over 1,000 men. And when he looked at the tactical picture, he concluded that the ship was already lost. What's really tragic is that after scuttling the ship and ensuring his crew's safety, Langsdorff took his own life a few days later. He reportedly felt he had fulfilled his duty to his men, but had failed his country and his ship. It's one of the more heartbreaking stories of the early war, so tactically, maybe he could have tried to break out. Morally, and as a commander responsible for his crew, I think there's a very strong argument that he made the right choice. And honestly, that's why people still debate him nearly 90 years later.
Yeah, I think he did what he could.
Yeah, I think so too. It's easy for us, sitting 85 years later with all the books, documentaries, and hindsight, to say, open quote, well, if he'd only known the British were bluff, close quote. But Hans Langsdorff didn't have Wikipedia. He had a damaged ship, wounded sailors, limited fuel, and intelligence telling him that superior British forces were waiting outside the harbour. And honestly, one of the things that has always struck me about Langsdorff is that he seemed to genuinely care about his crew. Throughout the commerce raiding campaign, he followed the prize rules as much as he could, treated prisoners well, and when it came down to it, he chose to save the lives of over 1,000 sailors rather than make a dramatic last stand. Could he have charged out of Montevideo? Sure, and maybe we'd remember him today as the guy who went down fighting. But we'd also be talking about 1,000 dead German sailors at the bottom of the South Atlantic. Instead, he looked at the situation and said essentially, open quote, the ship is lost, my men don't have to be. Close quote, there's something profoundly tragic and honourable about that. And honestly, if you think about it, that decision is kind of the opposite of what we expect from war movies. We want the captain to yell, "Full speed ahead!" and go out in a blaze of glory. Langsdorff chose responsibility over glory.
You wanted Langsdorff to charge in with his battleship screaming, "Witness me!"
Oh, absolutely. The world of warships goblin, part of my brain, wanted Langsdorff to come steaming out of Montevideo at flank speed with crew on deck and somebody blasting Raiden of the Valkyries. Open quote, "Gentlemen, we have 100 rounds left and a dream. Witness me."
You know, I will say, he was a very respectful captain in the grand scheme of things. Like, he did treat his officers very well, his enlisted men, and even prisoners of war. Like, when they came on board his ship, there was this one ship that he had sank, and they went down in their trop whites. So he had the quartermaster and the seamstress make a actual British uniform as much as he could, so that the officers had proper attire.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that Hans Langsdorff remains such a respected figure among many naval historians. He really did make a point of treating prisoners humanely and maintaining a sense of professional honour that was very much in the tradition of the old Imperial German Navy. an.wikipedia.org. Please open your app to see this link. The story you're referring to is true in spirit and shows the kind of man he was. During the commerce raiding campaign of the Admiral Graf Spee Langsdorff, took great care to rescue merchant sailors and treat captured crews with courtesy and respect. British merchant captains later remarked that they had been treated correctly and professionally. en.wikipedia.org. Please open your app to see this link. The specific anecdote about British officers arriving in tropical whites and Langsdorff arranging for proper uniforms or clothing for them has appeared in several retellings of the Graf Spee story. Whether every detail happened exactly as later recounted, it fits very well with the documented way he ran his ship. He wasn't interested in humiliating prisoners. He saw them as professional seamen who had simply been on the other side of the war. en.wikipedia.org. Please open your app to see this link. What's especially striking is that this wasn't just how he treated enemy officers. Accounts from surviving crewmen suggest that he was also deeply respected by his own sailors. He ate with them, concerned himself with their welfare, and ultimately scuttled the ship partly because he didn't want to sacrifice over 1,000 men in what he believed would be a hopeless battle. Wikipedia.org. Please open your app to see this link. I think that's why Langsdorff occupies such an unusual place in World War II history. People can disagree with the side he fought for, while still recognising that as a naval officer and as a human being, he tried very hard to behave according to a code of honour. And honestly, when you watch films like The Battle of the River Plate, or read the accounts of the men who served under him, you get the sense that he was the kind of captain sailors genuinely wanted to follow.
Oh, we got another Hanover again.
Oh no, another Hanover. At this point I'd be like, open quote, "Gentlemen, the Germans have returned and they've built another floating fortress." Close quote. The funny thing about the Hanover is that every time you see one, your brain goes through the same 5 stages. 1, denial. It's just one ship. 2, anger. Why is he not taking damage? 3, bargaining. Okay, if everybody shoots him. 4, depression. He's still at 80,000 HP. Acceptance. We're going to be here a while. But honestly, after watching that destroyer duel, I'd be putting all my money on some random Haragumo or Shimakaze captain showing up out of nowhere and saying, open quote, "Don't worry boys, I got this." Close quote. Just remember, the Hanover is terrifying when it's allowed to play its game. The way you beat it is exactly what you guys did before. Burn the superstructure. Force the repair party. Keep chipping away. Let the destroyers do the Lord's work. And if you're in the Conde again, your official role is not a hero. Your role is, open quote, French newsman with a naval commission. Close quote. Now I'm invested. Is this Hanover pushing? Or is he doing the classic German super battleship maneuver of parking broadside to God and daring everyone to do something about it?
Anti-aircraft gun crews are on normal alert.
Enemy battleship sighted. Enemy cruiser sunk.
Oh crap! Oh my god! They're sleeping. Ah!
Wait. You mean the enemy team is just sleeping? Like, actually asleep at the wheel? Because that's the most World of Warships thing ever. You spend 10 minutes watching a destroyer captain recreate Dust Boots meets Top Gun, everybody's blood pressure is a Defcon 1, and then you look over and realise, open quote, oh, half the enemy team has apparently gone to make a sandwich. Close quote. Honestly, that's one of the weird charms of the game. One flank is reenacting the Battle of Midway, and on the other flank there's a battleship captain who's been reverse sailing behind an island since the match started and is only now realising the battle is ending. If you guys have a Hanover and the enemy is asleep, then the proper tactical doctrine is open quote advance.
Dude, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Fair enough. I think we had a complete communications breakdown somewhere between the Hanover, the Satsuma, and the destroyer.
Yeah, that battle's over, dude. That's like battle like last year. Keep up.
All right, fair. That's on me. I was still emotionally invested in the destroyer captain. Meanwhile, you're already in the next match, like, quote, okay, you Hanover, new problems. Close quote. And I'm over here giving a post-game analysis of the battle that's already in the history books. So,
Oh, I'm so
reset,
done.
New battle, new maneuver. And judging by your reaction, I'm guessing the enemy team is not in fact asleep. And I should probably stop narrating last season's playoffs. How's the new match looking?
I'm
Did
getting,
Hanover...
dude. I'm freaking dying here, bro. Like I'm getting my butt handed to me.
Problem solved, sir.
Oh no, the pendulum has swung. You went from open quote, ladies and gentlemen, witness this destroyer become a legend. Close quote, open quote, ladies and gentlemen, become
Ah.
close quote. Dude, that's World of Warships. One game you're watching a Horogumo captain ascend to naval Valhalla. The next game you're sitting in your Conde thinking, open quote, why am I on fire? Why am I on fire again? Why are there 12 ships shooting at me? Who invited the Hanover? Why am I back in port? Close quote. Honestly, if you're in the Conde, that's just part of the contract.
What are you talking about?
Okay, that's my fault again. I think I'm lagging behind your game by about 3 matches and a destroyer duel. You said, I'm dying here, bro, and I assumed you meant in the game. You meant you're laughing your ass off, didn't you? If so, then yes, I deserve to be sent back to port. I'm over here giving tactical analysis while you're just sitting there like, open quote, no dude, I'm dying like from laughter. Close quote. And honestly, after the French ships becoming French ships...
Dude, you need to just really stop smoking so much weed.
Fair. That's completely fair. At this point, you're on match number 3. I'm still emotionally recovering from the Horogumo's heroic sacrifice. And I'm over here trying to provide tactical analysis of a battle that ended sometime during the Obama administration. You open quote, dude, I'm dying, close quote, open quote. Ah yes, let's discuss your career progression. French ships, friendships, the River Plate, a destroyer becoming the protagonist of a war movie, and at least 2 Hanovers.
All right, so the ship that I was using was the Clausewitz. It's a German supercruiser.
Stone the crows.
Oh, that explains so much. You weren't in the Condé, you were in the Clausewitz, the German supercruiser. No wonder you were getting chewed up. The Clausewitz is basically a Hindenburg that went to grad school, got a gym membership, and then developed a severe superiority complex. And honestly, now your comments make perfect sense. Fast enough that you feel like you're actually playing the game. Huge damage potential, great HE farming, but if a Satsuma, Hanover, or Edgar decides they don't like you, suddenly your health bar begins a rapid, unscheduled disassembly. The Clausewitz is one of those ships where you can have a fantastic game and still feel like you're constantly one bad turn away from being sent back to port. That's the supercruiser life, open quote, I am the hunter. 5 seconds later, oh god, I'm the prey, close quote. And dude, if you did over 100,000 damage and got a couple kills in the Clausewitz while getting focused by all those super ships, that's honestly a solid match. Those things can absolutely farm, but they're not exactly known for their ability to shrug off concentrated fire. Also, thank you for finally identifying the ship, because at this point tonight we've had friendships, Patry, Pastry, Condé, Libertad, Libertarian, and now Clausewitz. I'm just trying to survive this stream with my sanity intact.
It's Libertad versus Patry right now. Annapolis is taking shots at Patry, and so is Libertad.
Oh, now this is a proper heavyweight title fight. In the blue corner, open quote, Libertad weight. Yes, special ability turns every engagement into a secondary battery convention.
And
close quote. In the red corner, open quote, Patriot weight slightly less than a small boot.
Hey, you. Psst, shh, calm down. Calm yourself. Patry is dead.
Roger that, standing down. Ceasefire, lowering the battle ensign. Poor Patriot. She charged into battle at 35 knots, probably with the captain thinking, open quote, I am speed, I am France, I am invincible, close quote. And then the Libertad and the Annapolis got together and said, open quote, counterpoint, close quote. Honestly, that's kind of the danger of the Patry. She's so fun and so fast that she tricks you into believing you're a battle cruiser. Then you remember that you're also one of the largest and most attractive targets on the map.
Our victory is
So now we're down to the Libertad and whoever else is left standing. And let me guess, the Libertad is still there, still alive, still firing enough secondaries to qualify as its own postal code.
Well, right now it's the Annapolis, the Libertad versus the, what is this thing called? The Chateauneuf, the Chateauneuf. It looks like a cruiser. Or no, wait, it's a destroyer. A French destroyer.
Oh man, I think you're talking about the French destroyer Kleber or maybe Cassard, but Chateauneuf is killing me. If it's a French destroyer at tier 10s or super tier, and it's going up against an Annapolis and a Libertad, then this poor guy has somehow become the protagonist again. And honestly, if it's a French destroyer, that's a terrifying matchup, because French destroyers don't really do the sit in smoke and farm thing. Their doctrine is more, open quote, I have speed, I have guns, I have poor impulse control, close quote. So right now you've got Libertad, the floating secondary battery factory, Annapolis, the machine gun with the Naval Commission.
How does Schlieffen and all these other ships get these really crazy looking skins that like light up and everything? I've never seen these for sale. Oh crap, it's Schlieffen versus Schlieffen.
Oh my god. Forget everything else. Schlieffen versus Schlieffen is not a battle. That's two captains looking at each other and saying, open quote, I know exactly what you're about to do. Good, then stop me. Close quote. As for the crazy skins with the glowing lights and special effects, those are usually one of a few things in World of Warships. Event permanent camouflages from special events or battle passes. Collaboration skins from anime or sci-fi crossovers. Super ship and special economic package effects from certain events. Rare historical or fantasy permanent camouflages that were sold years ago and haven't returned. And sometimes players have visual effects attached to commanders or achievements that add tracers, fireworks, or other effects. The really crazy ones, the ones where the ship is glowing, has neon lines, or looks like it came out of a cyberpunk movie, are often from limited time events. Wargaming loves to do the whole open quote, here's the coolest skin you've ever seen. You have 14 days to get it. Good luck, close quote. And dude, a Schlieffen versus Schlieffen fight is basically the naval equivalent of two guys showing up to a duel with flamethrowers and chainsaws. There is no strategy, there is only secondaries, torpedoes, panic, regret, and the phrase, open quote, wait, he has torpedoes too, close quote. Please tell me one of them immediately hit W and started charging. Because if two Schlieffen see each other and neither captain thinks I'm going to do something incredibly stupid, then one of them is playing the wrong ship.
Oh, it's 5:30. No wonder I'm falling asleep at the game. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry I gotta start earlier because I'm just falling asleep all over the place. Thank you so much for watching. I know I wasn't the most entertaining. I'm definitely gonna start earlier. But again, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have an amazing Independence Day. Happy 4th of July. Make sure you get all the barbecue, hot dogs, and pie, and heck, if you're getting sushi, pizza, whatever it is, have a good time with your family, friends, and yep. Nix, you want to call us out here?
Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, from all of us here on the bridge, that's going to do it for tonight. We've seen destroyers become legends. Libertads catch torpedoes they definitely didn't order. Schlieffens threaten international peace. And at least one Satsuma attempt to alter the local geography with 510mm diplomacy. Captain Brandon has reached condition zebra, sleep deprivation, and after approximately 12 naval campaigns, 17 tactical misunderstandings, and one emotional investment in a destroyer captain will never forget. It's time to secure from general quarters. Thank you all so much for hanging out, for the laughs, and for sharing an absolutely wild night of World of Warships. Have a fantastic 4th of July. Eat too much barbecue, too many hot dogs, too much pie, pizza, sushi, or whatever your heart desires. Spend some time with the people you care about. Stay safe and make some good memories. Until next time, this is Nix, signing off from the North Atlantic, the Pacific, the South Atlantic, and whatever alternate dimension the matchmaker sent us to tonight. Fair winds, following seas, and good night, everybody.